everyone. Thanks for coming and joining us on a Friday here. I want to thank everybody who decided to sit real close to me right in the center. Thanks to everybody for coming out here. I'm Art Baudo. I'm a Principal Product Marketing Manager here at AWS. And joining me today is Saket Gupta. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I work as a Principal Product Manager in EC2 in AWS. Yeah.
All right, so for those who don't know, we're going to be covering I'm going to just read from the slide for a second. New Amazon EC2 generative AI capabilities in the AWS Management Console. So what does it mean? What we're going to be covering are 3 launches that happened this week. So 2 of them are part of the Amazon Q family, and the other is, I would say, a close cousin of that. So we're going to first cover how to use Q to do instance selection. We're going to talk a little bit about console to code, and then we're going to finish up by talking about one of the network management features that you can use Q for as well. So I'm really excited that all of you joined. And the best part is it won't entirely be us talking with slides, although I'm sure that's what you all came for. We're also going to do a demo as well here. So we're going to try to real-time do it. So bear with us if we make an error. We're error-prone just like everyone else. And we'll try to walk through. And then we'll have a little bit of time, most likely, at the end if you have any questions for either of the 2 of us. And let's get started. All right? So I first want to just start by some basics, a little bit about how we got where we are, and a little bit about some of that naming stuff. And so we won't spend a lot of time on this, but we've been focused on EC2 about trying to kind of reimagine for ourselves the cloud and make it even easier to use that. And one of the things that we've noticed over time, for those who have been here before or have worked with us, is we realized back in 2012, 2013 that fully 25% of the servers that we had are being used or consumed for management functions at AWS. And that prompted us to realize this is not a projection that could go on. And so how could we reimagine what we were doing? And this resulted in us creating what's called the Nitro system, or the AWS Nitro system. What the AWS Nitro system allowed us to do is separate a lot of the management functions that we had been doing on the CPU hardware that we were working with off to the side to separate chips, a whole separate set of chips and Nitro cards that we distributed. And to date, we've actually produced and moved into our own cloud, over 20 million Nitro chips at this point in time. So it speaks to the breadth and depth of what's happening. But the advantage to everyone out there is in how is it applicable to this conversation about Gen AI and the work we're going to do is we've had a lot of learnings in the cloud. But part of this has allowed us to actually deploy more and more instances. And those instances are actually not just some random thing that Saket and I like to do on a Thursday afternoon. Create random instances. These instances are the direct resultant product of conversations with customers who have asked us for more and more and asked us for changes. And so some of the things we're also trying to act on is how to make it even simpler to use the instances that we have. We think we've tried to make them as simple as possible, but we're trying to make them even more simple here. And just a couple of other quick things is that to date, a little bit of statistics. It took us about 2.5 years when Amazon got started in 2006 for the first 1 million instances to be launched. And today, over 100 million instances are launched every single day, translating into billions of instances launched per year. And that gives you an idea of the scale that we operate at and that you get when you use Amazon here. And it also gives you an idea of the planning that we have to do that goes into that and making that available to everyone. So we continue to have 2 goals here to provide all of you customers here with tools and services to reliably run virtually any workload. And we're going to discuss how you can do that today and to do continuous innovation to increase performance. As I mentioned before, today we have over 750 instances available for virtually any workload. And the features we're going to talk about today, and we're going to start with here, is to talk about how you can use these tools that we have to make it even easier to select an instance. So, okay.
All right. So we're going to talk first about the instance selection feature. So EC2 provides a wide portfolio of instance offerings. They are made for, exhaustive list of use cases which customer has. We also have specialized instance offerings, which goes to customer for specialized or unique workload requirements. Now, what happens is, like having a 750 plus portfolio of instances, it gives some complexity to the customer to select like, what is the right instance for me, right? And what is the right instance for my workload? So we have solved that using Amazon Q. Amazon Q is our generative AI-powered assistant, and it analyzes our years of data on instance offerings. And then based on simple input from you on your workload requirements or anything about workload, like you can tell us that, hey, you are working in a gaming industry, and you want to spin up an encoding or transcoding workload, right? Or you are working in a machine learning product, and you want to create a deep learning workload. You tell us that, and Amazon Q gonna suggest you instances based on your requirement. So yeah, let's quickly have a look on a couple of use cases right here, and then I'm gonna switch gears to console also to walk you through a couple of flows where you can actually engage and make best out of Amazon Q for your instance selection.
Hey, just a sec. Before we move forward, how many folks are familiar with the AWS console here? Hopefully. All right, good. Hey,
Oh, that's
we
a good
laugh, but I ran a builder session earlier in the week where someone didn't know what we were even meeting about. So I just want to make sure we're all familiar when you see it come up here. All right, let's.
Well, that's a good question. A good follow-up question would be like, how many of you have tried Q already after the the huge announcement and reInvent?
All right.
Great. Okay, cool. Fine. So let's quickly see like how I, as a customer with a couple of use cases, can interact with Q and make the best out of it to get down to an instance selection for my workload. So yeah, like I'm a customer, I want to spin up an RDBMS workload for my web app. So you can define your use case, you can define your application type. You can also define something like, what's your priority? Are you looking for low cost? Are you looking for performance or availability, right? Or you're looking for price performance? These are very simple inputs which any new customer who hasn't done extensive study on their CPU or memory requirements, they would know that, right? So you can define that, you can talk to Q, give these requirements, and then Q gonna analyze our databases and our instance details, and then suggest use some of the recommendations here. So in this case, you can see we are suggesting R7A, R6A latest generation instances. We are also explaining, Q is also explaining that why we are suggesting this, right? And it also nudges you to do or take the next step. So it guides you also like with these suggestions, what are the next steps you need to do to kind of finalize what is that final one instance type you want to work on, right? Now,
it's also in priority order according to the query that you have provided it. So this is what it thinks is the priority based upon the query that you started in there. So I think that's the other thing. Like the two things I like about it is one, it provides you the priority order, but also provides you at the bottom that paragraph is a discussion. And I can assure you, just for simplicity, we took this is a query and response directly from Q. If you submit this question, you will see this answer as well. This isn't some, it was smaller.
Don't worry, Art, I'm going to show everyone in the console also.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool, okay. So while doing this query, maybe like I have some more information. Like I got to know that, hey, my existing workload is using CPU, Intel CPU as my CPU preference, right? So what I do is, on this query, I just give this query. Like I tell Q, like, okay, based on the context I gave you, just tell me like what are the Intel CPU-based instances, and then it's going to give me a return answer out of it. So it's a standard interaction canvas using natural language, and you can tell Q, you can give additional information to narrow down your search, and you get to the final selection. Let's take another example, and I will be quick with this one. And this is like the gaming example or use case I talked about. I want to spin up a video encoding workload for my gaming application. And again, my preference is performance, right? So I gave that, and Q gonna analyze the instance data and will present this answer. It has the specialized VT1 instance also, but the other ones. And again, with the explanation, and what are the guidance, what are the next steps. So it guides you through that. And then maybe if I'm thinking of more from a workload perspective, I decided that maybe I have a second priority also. I first need the performant instance types, but availability also matters to me a lot. It's a gaming application. I want to be available. I cannot have my users facing a downtime error or in between with their stick they are not able to play more. So yeah, I give that, and then what it does is it takes the context from before, identifies, dig deep, and get to the availability information for these instances, and then recommend me with proper reasoning the instance suggestions, right? So these are the two use cases I wanted to talk to you about to give you, an idea how you can interact and get answers. Let's go to AWS Management Console and actually see how it's working.
All right.
Great. It's working. Awesome. Okay.
Step number one.
So before talking through the console, I want to give you some context. So in AWS Management Console, the ask or the need for the instance type decision is very contextual to your actions, right? So you are launching a EC2 instance, or you're launching a launch template, and you see an instance type selection module in that, and that is where you need to take a call, right? Obviously, there is a lot of pre-decision making which happens before you think and start going in the console. But console is a prototyping tool, and it's a simple canvas where you play and learn. And that's where we wanted customers to kind of get these suggestions and work through the final selection. So what we have done is so I'm in AWS Management Console. I will go to EC2, and this is EC2 landing page. And now I'm launching an instance, right? So this is my action where potentially I have the need to take instance type decision. So in this flow, I can fill this name and maybe move forward with Army and architecture as defaults. But when I get to that instance type section, I have to take a call. And here you're going to see the list of our 750 plus offerings, which is not much helpful, right? So what we have done is we have provided this get advice, button. And again, you can get advice here also. And if you click on it, we have produced an initial module. And this is basically for a very new customer who doesn't even know how to take a call for an instance type. What is the mental model, or what is the framework I should follow to take a call? This model kind of give them a hint, or kind of bring them into a framework, and then they can work forward with it. So we present this model, and then you can make some simple selection. So I have a high performance computing use case. I want to spin up a Hadoop application. Performance is important to me. And maybe I'm looking for, say, Graviton instances. And I click on Get Advice. It takes me to Amazon Q, and it will show an answer to you. So you can see it suggests R7G, which is the latest Graviton instance, and proper reasoning, some links to, as a reference for you, hey, these are the documents we used. You can read more about these suggestions in these documents. And this is how I interact with Q. And then like you can use this box to further give your requirements, give your queries to narrow down your search, right? And get to the final instance type you want to choose, get back to your launch flow, and keep going with launching an instance, right? So that is a kind of contextual flow we have tried to achieve in the console. You can anytime go to queue directly, right, in console, and ask any question about instance suggestion, right? So that flow is always there for you in AWS Management Console. Okay?
I think the best part is you can continuously follow it up. I don't know if other people end up being like me when you're in the console, that you realize, oh, wait, I have another requirement. So that's why we did our example with the follow-up questions. Here, this one was a little bit simpler since you filled out the template in the beginning. But it's great, especially if you're working with people in your own organization who haven't done or haven't worked with some of the console aspect before. It's a great way to get the feedback as well. At least I think so.
Right.
We were, when Saket and I were coming here today, somebody was analyzing our questions and like, oh, this isn't spelled precisely right, this should be this way. But this is natural language, so literally it will try to make a determination. You don't have to be perfect here as well to get a response. So
right.
That's kind of.
Right. So one more thing I can say here is like, when generating these answers, we try to get more context and try to understand you as a customer, right? So if you have asked something else before in queue related to your workload, maybe it's like, what are the IAM roles I should think of for this workload. It has that context. So it carries that context, and it trying to build the answer based on what you queried before also in the queue. So these kind of machine learning intelligence has been inbuilt in the queue. But yeah, like these are the two flows. You can directly go to queue, you can go through launch experience, and you will find it in launch templates also. When you are comparing instance types, there is a compare instance types experience also in our AWS Management Console. There also you can get a suggestion, get back, see details on the specification, take a call. So we have tried to make it simpler for our customers to get to an instance type decision quickly. Right, yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool. So with that, let's jump to our next launch.
Yeah. Do you want to bring up a slide?
Let's bring up the slide. Okay.
Click forward. Yeah.
So this is the second launch we did in re:Invent. This is AWS Console to Code. It's a capability for our developers that makes it simple, fast, and cost-effective to move from prototyping in console to running production workload using code. So let me give an example. Like console provides a simplified interface to take action, right? When you go and launch an experience, it's a very simple UI with inbuilt validation, checks, guardrails, and best practices, right? It forces you to take an action with best practices so that after any configuration change or provisioning, you get into less errors. But what we have heard from our customers is like when they do this prototype, they learn about a service and an action, and then when they want to apply it to their production workload or any at-scale operation, they have to start from scratch and writing the code for what they did in console. So what AWS Console to Code does is, with the help of the generative AI models, it understands what actions you took, and then based on your selection of your actions, it generates a synthesized code for you in your preferred format. So let's take an example of a persona like DevOps, right? One of the tasks which I heard a lot when talking to customer was like they have to launch an instance with a specific configuration, and then they have to enable monitoring with a certain configuration and specification. Very simple, like launching instance, enabling specific monitoring. And it's a repeat task for all their instance launches for a production workload, right? So what we could do here, or what they could do here is they can come to console, launch instance in an easy canvas, do the configuration for monitoring, and then they can come to console to code, select those two actions, and then we're going to generate a CDK or a CloudFormation code for you. And this is not just limited to mutating actions, which I talked about, which kind of provision or configuration changes. It also expands to non-mutating actions like filtering. So a scenario where you want to terminate instances which have a specific legacy army, right? Maybe that's a scenario. So there, the actions you're going to take is you're going to go to instances pages in AWS Management Console. You're going to add a simple filter through 2 clicks for your army, and then you're going to just click on terminate to delete those instances which showed up as part of the filter. So the first part, the read-only with the filter, the conditional non-mutating part is also captured as an action. So you can do all these permutation combinations in console to code experience and generate a synthesized code for it, which will give you a good start and you can take that code, go to your coding environment, mature it even more, and then run your production workload based on that. So yeah, let's, okay. So maybe let's switch to console, AWS Management Console first, and then I'm going to get to the slide.
Okay.
Okay?
I just.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to demo the whole flow, right? Starting from the 2 actions like launching instances and enabling monitoring. So we were here last, right, in the launch flow. Let's just use this. So I'm going to launch this instance for my account. I'm going to just use without keep it, just keep it simple. And okay, so this is my first action I took. Then I went to instances, and what I did is went to monitoring, and just to keep things simple, I just okay, this has enabled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable and enable it back. But the idea is they go and enable monitoring configuration. So this enable detailed monitoring. And then I see this console to code in the same nav. This is a new feature. So you can read about this and go to console to code. And I see all these actions which I took. So I first went to launch instance. Then I disabled the monitoring. And then I enabled it back. So it's all captured here. And this is under mutating actions bucket, but I have read-only also, and then all the actions I took, so the whole list. So as a customer, I'm going to select launching and enabling monitoring. Then here, these are the code formats we support right now. So you can choose any of these code format, right? So our buckets right now are CDK and CloudFormation. But yeah, we are working on evolving this even further. And in this case, I just selected CDK Python code, and I clicked on it, and it generates the code for your actions. So just few things while it generates, it actually takes the API commands which console is making when you take the console action. So it preserves the goodness of console, your defaults, your checks and validations, and your guardrails, which made console a simpler canvas. It preserves that, and using that, it generates the code, right? So we call it as a well-architected code because we try to replicate well-architected practices in console. So that's how the code generation helps you in making it a good code rather than a standard code for your different actions, right? So yeah, this code is generated. It's a synthesized code combining your 2 actions. So it's a single code snippet you can run, and both the actions going to happen. And in here, you will see some explanation on the code also, what does it do? Because if you want to share this, you want to copy and download and share this as a file, It has everything which will help your ecosystem to kind of collaborate and mature this code. Yeah, like the other things it has is, so copy and download. These are the two controls we have provided. You can copy, you can download and share it. You can copy and paste it in your coding environment and start working on it.
Or modify it if you needed to.
Yeah, modify it, enhance it based on your requirement, and then use it production ready before you implement it. And then we also have here CLI commands. These are the commands for the two actions I selected. So you would know the individual commands for the actions which contributed to that synthesized code in this page. It has all the artifacts you require to get to understand what it has generated for you as part. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool. So that was the announcement number 2. We have the third announcement, which I'm going to talk about.
Back to slides.
And you can skip this.
Yeah, we had just in case we had a demo thing, we decided to take chances. So give us a sec let me go through the slides here.
Right.
Okay. So our final feature that we're talking about is Amazon Q for network troubleshooting. So once again, it uses large language models to check connectivity for troubleshooting and answers broad questions. So as a lot of folks who deal with networking stuff, anytime there's a problem, the first question is usually to the network administrators or other people like, what's going on? And so we're trying to allow you to ask plain text questions and do some consolidation to boost productivity here as well for all of you, or those of you who deal with or work with network issues. So similar to before, I put in some questions into it based upon questions that we received feedback for before. And so my first question is pretty basic here. It was, why can't I SSH? I'm not so sure all network administrators need to answer this question, but a lot of people have the trouble. Okay, I think we're okay. So why can't I SSH? Enter in the question. And so it then provides an initial response. It sounds like you're unable to SSH into the network, and it could indicate a problem with perhaps security, networking ACLs, or some routing table information. All right, so then, it also, though, doesn't stop there with this. This being a more networking-oriented feature, we provide some information here about the path details to give you some perhaps information about why you can't SSH right now, and follow it up with some additional text. It says, I chose the internet as your source, and it gives you some information about what you could try. So it's both, this particular feature gives you kind of a natural language processing advice on what action to take. It does not take the action for you. It offers you the ability to do that here, or the suggestion, depending upon your network here. It gives you this information. And then finally, we put together another question here that may come up, is a little bit more complicated in orientation. Do I have any instances that can access the internet? This is I call a trust but verify kind of question. Maybe we have a policy, or everybody has told me that they cannot access the internet in their instances, and I don't know about other people, but sometimes when you're looking at thousands of instances or lots of instances, maybe there is someone that has kind of violated our policy or what have you, and I want to do a check. So first thing it does is it's going to give me a quick response. It sounds like you want to check if any of your instances have deployment. And then it gives me some information back here. So it looks like you have an instance that actually can reach the internet in this question here. It gives you the details about the instance. And then it will also, it's doing this analysis specific to your network as well. So one of the things about here is the network troubleshooting is specific to your network as well, and specific to your setup. And then it also will tell you some information about that specific VPC. In this case, because someone named it web server. Web servers frequently need access to the internet. And So it gives you an idea of that, of what may be out there. And now you have the specific information, the IP address, the naming, and you can kind of go back and talk to the instance owner as well to get more information and say, hey, have you configured this, different to our policy or what have you? So these are the three features in the console with AI, generative AI, large language models that we're here to discuss today. So one on the ask for the instance finder, the other are console to code, and then here the Amazon Q network troubleshooting. And so all three are in preview right now, and I'd highly encourage everybody to take a look and try them out, either in the console or directly using Amazon Q, which is pretty simple to find. It's at AWS. It's aws.com.